Welcome back. With the fourth wave of infections gripping most of the country, what are authorities doing to make sure COVID-19 protocols are being adhered to this festive season? Well, Cape Town tends to be a popular destination for many. JP Smith, the Cape Town Mayoral Committee member for Safety and Security, joins us now live for more on this. JP, thanks.
On the venues, as they have the greater responsibility to ensure compliance of their customers.
All right, great. Yeah, so you're not necessarily targeting patrons who could possibly be arrested in the early hours of the morning, etc., right? You're looking at the venue owners and managers, etc.
As far as possible, you do have people who in public places are behaving very poorly, making a spectacle of themselves, getting drunk, being disorderly, but they would be dealt with regardless of the disaster management lockdown regulations. And you also have to act against everybody to keep these public places usable and enjoyable for everybody, for people with their families, for all revelers. So making sure people don't become exceedingly antisocial in public spaces is part of what law enforcement, Metro Police and traffic is meant to do, with the roadblocks, with the tourism and visitor safety unit in the CBD, sponsored by the provincial government, and with the additional staff that work for longer hours over this time. And we have a raft of events and activations in the CBD and elsewhere to try and liven up these spaces. So you have to balance the excitement and activities around these spaces with doing enforcement and trying to remind people to wear their masks.
Yeah, I know. Unfortunately, the city is going to be seen as party poopers here, but it has to be done. Let's talk about actually getting people outside, because I heard last week that the city was actually encouraging restaurants to go into the streets and that certain roads were going to be blocked off to allow for this to happen, so that we actually have more people outside instead of inside a venue.
So we've been ramping up our festive season plans over the last months. We've had a variety of events as the DMA regulations permit within the maximum of those regulations. And we have a standard operating procedure with events organizers who are a very self-regulating industry to make sure that we can comply with compliance officers and so forth. And these are culminating in a series of activities over weekends with night markets, food courts in public places, in Green Market Square, concerts, the concert, the Unity on the Square concert that Lukman Adams presented on Heritage Day, and activations and street closures now continuously until into January, to try and get business back, to try and save our hospitality industry. There are 35,000 jobs that depend on the events industry, 25,000 on the film industry, and about 230 to 250,000 on the tourism industry. So we must help save these jobs, keep these businesses viable until the lockdown ends.
So what do people who are visiting Cape Town look out for? Because, in terms of patrollers, etc., how would that work?
So most of the things that that will cause people problems in Cape Town is perhaps not understanding that they are required by law not to bring glass and alcohol onto the beach. There are people who come from other parts of the country who don't know that it is not permissible to do so, and it is not legal in Cape Town to bring alcohol or glass onto the beach, and we will impound that alcohol. We've impounded by about 440 units since the start of this week on our beaches, and we'll continue to do so. That helps reduce the drownings, which is the other big thing. People come and swim in areas that are not safe. So please swim where the lifeguards indicate. There are rip currents and areas where beaches are dangerous. If there isn't a lifeguard present, think twice about swimming unless you're an extremely accomplished swimmer, and definitely don't drink and swim. And then, of course, no alcohol on the roads. That's one thing where there will be a large number of arrests. We've had quite a few arrests. I will tell you, encouragingly, we're seeing fewer drunk driving arrests these last 2 weeks, a lot fewer. We're seeing the kind of arrest in 2 weeks that we normally see over a weekend. So it does look like there isn't money to party with, or people are being a little bit more cautious, but it's encouraging. And I think those are the main things, other than people who go and hike on the mountain and take improper caution. The weather in Cape Town is a fickle thing. Wear proper hiking boots, take water, and know where you're going. Don't veer off the tracks. Mountain injuries are unfortunately common. It's still a mountain, even if it's in the middle of a city.
Lastly, what about house parties? We're going to see lots of that happening, especially at midnight, because that's when the curfew kicks in for New Year's Eve.
Are you asking for yourself, sir?
Actually, I don't have a house party to go to yet. I might be stuck in my hotel room.
We will try and fix that, sir. Certainly there will be complaints from the public about noise and issues at neighboring properties. And again, keep in mind there is a curfew that we are legally obliged to enforce, and we will do so to the best of our ability, especially with the joint operations over that time. New Year's Eve, of course, people are going to want to be out and be about. We ask that everybody just be safe and responsible. We don't want to be the party poopers. Work with us. If an officer asks you politely to do something, don't turn it into an incident. Try and work with the staff. Understand that they're also under pressure in the wedge between difficult regulations and people who really want to just cut loose after a second less than ideal year. With the house parties, keep in mind that if you're going to overload your party with, as we had an incident this last week with 500 people at a party, then we are going to come and shut it down, and we will ask people to leave because you are being irresponsible. Get an appropriate venue if need. Our events office will gladly assist. That's what they're there for. We want to help make legal events possible and for everybody to have as much fun as they can.
All right. Thank you so much for your time. Have a great festive season. JP Smith, Cape Town Mayoral Committee Member for Safety and Security.